Hello, guys and gals, me Mutahar, and yeah, the title is no joke here, ladies and gentlemen. I think we might have an attempted or premeditated murder situation, ladies and gentlemen, and it is about as insane as you can think. Now, the person we might be discussing today is alleged of murdering a person, and the reason we're hearing about it is because they decided to complain on the internet forums about the cops breaking into their secure phone. So, ladies and gentlemen, this post came out a few days ago. My Graphene OS was cracked by Belgian police. Now, a user by the name of B8R2 comes in a couple days ago, posts this thread on X. Now, unfortunately, I can't bring this up because as of now, it's been deleted. And I'm assuming it's deleted because, ladies and gentlemen, we might be witnessing one of the greatest self-reports in human history, okay? We might be witnessing somebody that may have inadvertently admitted to a possible crime. We might have seen something that makes every lawyer cringe. So, for instance, this person says, basically, I was suspected of a murder. I went to jail, got out on an ankle monitor because there was not enough evidence. My operating system was seized. I had all security features enabled. Now I got a call from my lawyer saying I have a warrant for my arrest for a murder that was planned. The warrant was sent out by the Intel Department of the Federal Police. So immediately I was like, whoa, that's kind of fucking crazy. So here we actually did end up getting him showing the actual warrant. So this is a warrant because Graphene OS failed me. Oh, that darn Android operating system failed me. Now remember, Graphene OS has been dealing with so much of a tidal wave of negative attention. Apparently it's the drug dealer criminal phone of choice. Now ultimately I've always said that, listen, with any piece of hardware that does, any hardware that, involves user privacy, things like the dark web, things like two-factor authentication, well, not two-factor authentication, end-to-end encryption. A lot of people use these things for their personal privacy and their freedoms, right? Journalists use this kind of stuff. Government agents use this kind of, a lot of people use this technology to keep safe on the internet, keep private. Unfortunately, criminals can also use this. Now, for me, I love things like the dark web and any of these privacy technologies, and I think everybody has a right to privacy. Unfortunately, there are people that are drug dealers, murderers, kitty diddlers, unfortunately using the same technology to stay safe. And I have no sympathy when they by themselves fail basic practices and end up getting exposed by law enforcement. If you're gonna get your asshole gaped by LE because you fucked up somewhere in the process, I'm gonna be saying thank you, God, divinely intervening and stopping these sickos from perpetrating whatever crime. Anyways, I wanted to look a little bit deeper into this, and this warrant that was provided. Now again, this is one side of a story, and this side of a story is provided by somebody that is not necessarily a clean person. This is somebody that is a alleged scammer, possibly an alleged murderer, okay? So take what they say with a fucking grain of salt. But the story is insane. So, for instance, inside this over here, unless you can read, what language would this be? Dutch? Would this be in a? Because this is from like Belgium. But of course, if you can read this over here, you can see that again. A rough translation that I have shows that this is an official letter from the Belgian police in Antwerp, and it is specifically from the Digital Forensics and Analysis Division. Okay. Now, what this effectively is an invitation to a interrogation, okay? They want to interrogate this man. So right over here, they say that Uzal gehoord worden over feiten die u ten last kunnen worden gelegd en die in misdrijf betreffen waarvoor in... I butchered this language severely. I am so sorry to anybody watching this from that region, man. They gotta listen to this fucking fat Indian guy fuck up their language. God damn. So over here, what's written is, you will be questioned about facts that may constitute a criminal offense for which you may be deprived of your liberty, and then of course they exactly have to name what the crime could be, right? So a quick translation of moed met voorbed achterad actually translates to premeditated murder in this story, okay? So yeah, it's a pretty serious charge, and what they mentioned down over here is an exact date. So 09/07/2024 and then 15/07/2024. So again, what happened with some eagle-eyed investigators in the story, and again, I want to just shout out the people involved in researching this as well too. You had International Cyber Digest apparently say that on apparently the 11th July 2024, Belgian police found a dead body on a forest trail. Okay, so basically, this story came out to, if I can pull it up right here. So they used the dates apparently aligned with this and said that they found the article here, which was a body found in forest path on Dagenstraat, Mechelen. So a body was found in a ditch along a forest path. Emergency services rushed to the scene, yada, yada, yada. So the only bit of evidence that I can verify that this is actually like kind of the same thing was I found another source called Nieuwsblad, which again, I took the actual text over here from this article, the short one, translated it, and it says shortly after noon, emergency services called because a person was found in a canal alongside the forest road near Geer Dagenstraat in Mechelen. An investigation followed, which revealed that it was the case of suicide. Now, I don't know if this is exactly the same murder or whatever, right? But again, this is what, these International Cyber Digest kind of linked it to. Again, they didn't really mention it over here. These people are just kind of claiming this was actually confirming to be the case. But again, I'm just saying that I haven't personally confirmed it myself. Now, of course, at this moment in time, this is a pretty serious thing, right? We're talking about a murder in this situation, so I really don't care necessarily as much. Now, in this story, obviously, our friend B8R20 claims that something on his device effectively has led to him possibly being put in life behind bars, okay? Life imprisonment if caught with murder, right? Which is, from what I understand, what's gonna happen to you. If this is the story. Now, obviously, there's been so many different, reactions to this. One of them is, Graphene OS admin, you gotta shut the fuck up. No one cares if he's a career criminal, actually. I do, to be honest with you. I really do care if this guy is possibly a career criminal. People care if the product works or not. And the fact that you keep randomly bringing up he's a scammer indicates your product is the scam. Now, ultimately, Graphene OS is being accused that their actual operating system isn't secure. Something in here was cracked. So I decided to go to B8R20's actual Telegram, which usually that's always a great sign that something is happening. There's a Telegram fatigue that I have. But anyways, to go over here, ladies and gentlemen, the latest post that he has was, I'm exhausted. Today was a real bad day. We'll be up tomorrow. Now, if you actually scroll up a little bit, he does talk about why Graphene OS is bad in this situation. And in one of these posts, he showcases more information. So if you're looking at this is apparently a PDF that is part of a sensitive criminal investigation. I know it's a bit hard to read, but they mention over here that in the forensics lab, they got a black phone. Device LC1 was found to be a Google Pixel Graphene OS device. So examination of the device found a number of features indicative that the device is a hardened, secure platform. However, Cellebrite extracted all the data, which is actually rather interesting because Cellebrite literally has a matrix that was leaked that showcased that actually the graphene devices were the ones that they couldn't crack. So I'm having a bit of a hard time believing this guy, but let's go down a little further. So inside here it says all data was extracted from the device. If relevant, date and times of communication data should be verified with the relevant communication provider. Contemporaneous notes were maintained during the examination and are retained at the Cyber Crime Center. So here they show photos of the actual phone, and then further examination shows features that are indicative, which are part of a hardened secure communication. So for instance, Graphene OS device wallpaper, he's got signal notifications, wasted, roaming, alphanumeric passcode. Good for you. NordVPN, okay? So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, why did I laugh with the passcode a little bit? Well, it seems that the story might be that the person was a pretty bad opsec enjoyer, if you will. So here's the thing. Obviously, there is no device that is unhackable. To claim that any device is unhackable is severely short-sighted. While these devices are very secure, ultimately it depends on if you have an updated device, as long as the device is supported, but it doesn't protect you from, let's say, law enforcement figuring out what your code is by watching you maybe enter it, spy on you, or by you having just a weak passcode to begin with. If, for instance, on my device, I put in the passcode 1234, and somehow the cops cracked that, whose fucking fault is that? Is that Graphene OS's? Is that mine? I would probably wager that it is my fault for having such an easy dipshit passcode to figure out. So in this case, he actually does explain further inside his rant why the fuck this happened. So the fellows over at Graphene OS go and say, spend some time right now what you say happened. So there's actually something to talk about. Explain why and how the phone was taken. Give a clear and detailed explanation for why you believe the phone was exploited. So again, he's like, English is not my first language. The phone was locked and was seized. I gave my Duress PIN as a code. The phone did not self-destruct. So what he mentions is a feature known as the Duress PIN. Now basically, on a modern like Graphene OS smartphone, you will get the option to input a Duress PIN. Now the Duress PIN allows you to basically set up a code. Like for instance, if my Duress PIN was 5678, right? And the cops were like, give me your PIN. Or somebody was like, give me your PIN so I can get into your phone, right? I'm under duress. I'm going to tell them, oh yeah, my PIN is 5678. So as soon as they enter that PIN, it is effectively going to nuke all the data off of my device. Now, again, our buddy here is claiming that that didn't happen, all right? That didn't occur. Now, he hasn't provided any fucking evidence, any proof of this whatsoever. It literally is his word against everyone else's. And it turns out that his word may not necessarily be all that in a bag of chips, because it turns out the guy is a prolific alleged scammer. But we'll get to that in a little bit. So obviously, as he was arguing with the community about this, a community that is already being attacked for allowing phones to exist that are drug dealers. Again, this is the kind of slander that the privacy community has to fucking deal with. So for instance, some guys like, if graphene failed you, you wouldn't receive a search warrant, you'd be getting handcuffs. So he's like, he said he was charged with murder, spent 7 months in jail before the Graphene OS phone was ever obtained by the cops. He was already a suspect and being charged prior to when he says the police obtained his device. He also says it was in before first unlock, which is basically a stage where, you know, when you fire up your phone, like for instance, if you have an iPhone, fire it up, do not enter the code, like just reboot your phone, don't enter the code. And the first time you enter the code, you'll notice that your phone like lags a little bit. It takes a little second to start up. It's because that's when your phone is initially unlocking and just decrypting everything. So it's just, that's what they mean by that. So he means that exploiting the OS, which does not provide access to user data, so he ruled out Graphene OS exploits as a way they could have obtained user data without realizing it. He also said he used a strong passphrase, rolling out a secure element exploit, okay? Where's any evidence or indication any data was extracted? It's his assumption because they raised the charge to premeditated. Now again, I don't know if these guys have seen the documentation he provided showing that the device was cracked, which is interesting. But again, I'm saying the escalation happened because they took the device and the new information they confronted me with came from digital sources that were only present on that phone. So here's the thing. I have to say this is almost a self-admission. So wait a minute. You were already like investigated by the cops, but somehow they got access to your smartphone, they cracked it, and there was some information on that smartphone that is being used by law enforcement to up your charge to premeditated murder. That makes me wonder if there was actually evidence used against you. Now again, it could be that maybe the cops were planning evidence on the guy. Maybe that could be a thing. I don't know, okay? Look, cops can be shady as fuck, but the way this guy is talking makes me wonder. Is this just some fucking murderer that got caught out of their own stupidity? But again, going down over here, for instance, Graphene asks, which information did they confront you with, and how did that happen? If they confronted you about evidence on your phone, then why are you not in jail right now, but rather, as you say, on the run from police? You say you fled the country, but have a Belgian IP, non-VPN IP, and they mentioned this because he was on the forums posting about all this shit. So he goes, IP does not equal location, doesn't equal identity, doesn't equal proof of anything, hopping networks, roaming, SIM behavior, plenty of other factors. So you say you're on the run from the cops and fled the country, yet you're using a non-VPN IP within Belgium to post on our forums. The police can obtain that from websites with a valid warrant. It's yet another sign you're LARPing trying to harm Graphene OS. So here's the thing, right? I don't know if this guy's like a fucking LARPer, if he's high or doing some crazy shit, or if he's actually on for murder. But this is a pretty serious allegation to a piece of software that ultimately works on trust. You have to trust Graphene OS if you're going to go through the effort of installing it just to maintain your security and privacy from Big Brother. So if it turns out that the phone is actually not as secure, that's very damaging for the guys over at Graphene OS. Thankfully for them, he has not provided literally any tangible bit of evidence in this entire process. If anything, he's done more self-incriminating than anything else. So let's dive a little bit further into this story, ladies and gentlemen. So going back to the Graphene OS guys, they did mention a pretty based response. If you haven't committed a murder, go back to Belgium and turn yourself in, so you can clear your name. If you did do it, then go back and turn yourself in. Listen, if you haven't murdered someone, turn yourself in. Clear your innocence. Your lawyer can help you out. It's possible. You've made enough money apparently doing this. But if you did do a murder, turn yourself in. We're not to blame for the situation you got yourself in, and your attempts to blame do not have any basis. Go back to Belgium and turn yourself in for murder. Stop murdering people, stop blaming us for your actions, and go turn yourself into the police. What the fuck, man? This is the craziest shit I've ever read, dude. God, dude. What the fuck? Now, I think a lot of the anger here comes from the fact that the fellows over at Graphene OS are just absolutely ass mad that they have to be associated with criminals. And again, B8R20 is just the kind of fucking absolute douchebag that keeps going out. Like, again, if you're being hit with the attempted murder charge, okay, arguing on Twitter is not where you should be at. So he gets mad that Graphene guys mention his IP in a public argument, which, again, you're on their forums, okay? Like, what the fuck? You're publicly admitting to scamming people and stealing their Bitcoin, draining their bank accounts on Telegram. You're flaunting supposedly having money stolen from people with scamming. Do you think scammers are welcome in the Graphene community? And he's like, that alone proves my point. The moment you question them, they weaponize whatever private info they have access to rather than stick to fact. So I go to his actual Telegram, and he is actually showcasing a lot of these, like, crypto fucking videos. He's showcasing a lot of these, like, crypto transactions occurring on his, like, Telegram. So, for instance, he's showcasing that he's got, like, a 2D Targi exchange campaign, and then he's showing money entering in and leaving various crypto wallets. He's showcasing Cartier watches. Again, if this man is on the run, he's kind of an idiot that's on the run. And he's showcasing that, you know, he's sending out a bunch of these emails. They've got like 29% open rates, yada, yada, yada. So apparently the scam here is that he's sending out a bunch of these emails that apparently are these like phishing emails for like, hey, your account has been flagged. Verify your account. So a lot of the people, so you know, whenever you get like a crypto account or something, like, hey, your account needs verification, and it comes from a shady Russian like domain, this is the fucking scumbag sending it. So at least from what I'm gathering, he is an actual honest-to-God douchebag crypto scammer. Now here he's flexing what appears to be, I think this is a Lamborghini Urus. So, you know, this is the ill-gotten gains, right? Buying some Beamers. I don't know if any of these are necessarily real because there's some, like, fucking videos he has that just look like pure fucking AI slop. Like, I don't know about this McLaren dog. Like, it's just, like, yeah, sure, it's a nice McLaren you got there, but I'm wondering about this building. Almost seems a little bit AI gen to me, but, you know, what the fuck do I know? I don't know a fancy supercar or anything. God damn. But yeah, this guy appears to be a scammer, and yeah. You know, because he's a scammer, I'm having sort of a hard time believing his story. His whole game runs on scamming individuals. In fact, there were some people from his side that came out to spread a story, and I want you to listen to some of this shit too, because here's where it gets even, like, funnier. So listen to this.
Graphene OS, why are you having my name B8 arrested? Just be honest, why did the Duress PIN fail? We want clear answers.
I'm sure this individual from, I'm gonna hazard a guess, Nigeria came in and probably issued this like question to ask for the Graphene OS community. I'm totally sure he's not reading a script whatsoever. I'm totally sure that he wasn't given like $15 in cryptocurrency to make this fucking statement whatsoever. Don't worry, there's also more too.
Graphene is a big honeypot. The main developer is the homosexual idiot that works together with police to exploit the device security.
This man is just reading that script hard. So yeah, it's just a whole bunch of fucking slander for no reason. And again, I don't know what the goal is at the end of the day, but it seems like a crypto scammer that possibly, and again, I'm not going to accuse somebody of a very serious crime like murder, but it seems as if B8R20, it seems that, listen, if you had to hazard a guess, the evidence is stacking up against the man. And it seems like poor OPSEC led to this man leading to his device ended up being like exploited and hacked into or grabbed by law enforcement agencies. Now, whatever they're finding on this device could possibly be used to send this man to jail for a long time. Actually, from apparently his accounts, almost indefinitely. Now, he even tries to obfuscate it by saying, like, there are certain cases like Peter R. de Vries where, again, Graphene OS was exploited. And again, this is a classic example of a man that is just lying out of his fucking mouth. Because one simple Google search will show you that this actual story involving a Dutch journalist who was murdered in an armed ambush was actually, the actual phones that were discovered, right, from one of the perpetrators led to an application known as Matrix at the time. There was no use of Graphene OS in this situation, more so a Matrix system that law enforcement were looking into. So again, when it comes to this fucking like scumbag, he might be facing life in prison if the story actually is true, if he's actually even being investigated for murder. I just think the story itself is so fucking absurd because it's the prime example of what happens when you actually don't put like two thoughts into your actual like OPSEC whatsoever. Good OPSEC would probably protect this man from life imprisonment, but thankfully poor OPSEC seems to be leading in the direction that he might actually face some wrath for alleged crimes that he could have committed. Again, all this will ultimately come out when a court decides this, right? But the way that he's pissing and shitting himself in the community almost seems like the final, like, throws. You know, at the end of Terminator 2 and shit? Sorry if I spoiled like a fucking 30-year-old movie. You know what he's like, when he falls into the lava and he's like splashing around? It almost feels like that's what's happening with our boy here. So yeah, two fingers up, fuck this guy. To me, I'm just going to say it, doesn't seem like Graphene OS was at fault here. In fact, if anything, I'm glad that they gave the based responses and told him to go fuck himself. Because ultimately, this is not a platform that should be for criminals, okay? Unfortunately, criminals can use this. Thankfully, this criminal doesn't seem smart enough in this situation. And he talks about a lot of people like prying into his personal life. Dog, you're on a publicly accessible Telegram flexing the fact that your email, like, fucking, you're sending out phishing emails to steal crypto from people, drain bank accounts. You are actually the lowest of the low, all right? You can go fuck yourself in every single facet of the world. I am out.